What's up, Cowboys Nation? The Dallas Cowboys are constantly working to improve, making the necessary adjustments to build a team capable of contending for a championship. But this offseason is shaping up to be one of the most pivotal in recent memory. From Micah Parsons adapting to yet another new defensive coordinator to Zach Martin's uncertain future, the Cowboys are at a crossroads. Before we dive deep into everything happening, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. This is your home for exclusive Cowboys news, rumors, and in-depth analysis all off-season long. The more likes we get, the more the Cowboys community grows, and trust me, you are not going to want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's get into it. Micah Parsons is one of the most dominant defensive players in the NFL, but for the third straight season, he will have to learn a new system under a different defensive coordinator. Since arriving in Dallas, Parsons has played under Dan Quinn, then Mike Zimmer, and now he will be coached by Matt Eberflus. That is 3 different defensive coordinators in just 4 years, and it is fair to wonder how much this constant change will affect his game. Learning a new scheme, new terminology, and adjusting to a different coaching style every season is no easy task. When asked about this challenge, here is what Parsons had to say. It's just learning a new system and getting another coach's adjustments to how I like to play, what I like to do, and implicate me. Obviously, it is challenging with a third and is obviously not the greatest thing in the world, but, that's part of being a pro. You've got to make adjustments. Parsons understands that the NFL is a business, and part of being an elite player is learning how to adjust. But the big question is, how will Eberflus use him? We saw Parsons thrive under Dan Quinn, where he was used as a versatile weapon, rushing off the edge, dropping into coverage, and lining up all over the field. Even under Mike Zimmer, he still produced 12 sacks in just 13 games despite battling an ankle injury, but Eberflus runs a much more structured defensive system, one that relies heavily on fundamentals and discipline rather than creativity and aggression. That raises a major question. Will Parsons still be unleashed to wreak havoc on opposing offenses, or will he be forced into a more rigid role that limits his impact? And then there is another storyline developing behind the scenes, the contract situation. Parsons is entering the 4th year of his rookie deal, and the Cowboys have a decision to make. They can extend him now, making him one of the highest-paid defenders in the league, or they can wait. There have even been reports that the Cowboys internally discussed the possibility of trading Parsons. However, Parsons himself says he has had great conversations with Jerry Jones and remains optimistic that an extension will get done. There's definitely a plan in place, but we'll just see how everything plays out. There's been no progress yet, but I'm pretty confident that something will happen, so we'll see. So here is the million-dollar question. Should the Cowboys make Parsons the highest-paid defensive player in the league, or should they explore the possibility of moving him for a massive return? This is a decision that will shape the future of the franchise. What do you think, Cowboys fans? Should Dallas lock him up long-term, or is there an argument for trading him and using those assets to build elsewhere? While Parsons' future in Dallas seems secure, the same cannot be said for Zach Martin. At 34 years old, Martin has nothing left to prove. He has been the anchor of the Cowboys' offensive line for over a decade, solidifying himself as one of the best to ever do it. Let's take a look at what he has accomplished. 9 Pro Bowl selections. In 10 seasons, 7-time All-Pro, one of the best guards in NFL history. A future first-ballot Hall of Famer, but the reality is Martin's future is uncertain. After suffering a serious ankle injury last season, there have been whispers that he could consider retirement. Even before the injury, there were reports that Martin had thought about calling it a career, and if he does not retire, there is also the possibility that he could leave in free agency. For the Cowboys, this would be a devastating blow. They already lost Tyron Smith last offseason, and if Martin leaves, it would officially mark the end of an era for one of the greatest offensive lines in franchise history. For years, the Cowboys boasted one of the most dominant offensive lines in the NFL, with Martin and Smith leading the way. But despite their greatness, Dallas never made it past the divisional round during their time together. That leads to an important discussion. How will Martin be remembered in Cowboys history? Where does he rank among the all-time greats? Here is a look at the best offensive linemen in franchise history. 10. Flozell Adams, a 5-time Pro Bowler, who was a key part of Dallas's offensive line for over a decade. 9. Travis Frederick, the best center in Cowboys history, whose career was cut short by illness. Ralph Neely, a member of the NFL 1960s All-Decade Team and a two-time Super Bowl champion. Nate Newton, a six-time Pro Bowler who helped Dallas win 3 Super Bowls in the 1990s. 6. John Nyland, one of the best guards in team history, a 6-time Pro Bowler. Tyron Smith, the best left tackle in Cowboys history, an 8-time Pro Bowler and future Hall of Famer. Eric Williams, a dominant force on the offensive line, a 3-time Super Bowl champion. 3. Zach Martin, a future Hall of Famer and one of the most dominant guards of his era. Rayfield Wright, a Hall of Famer and the anchor of the Cowboys' first Super Bowl teams. Larry Allen, the greatest offensive lineman in Cowboys history, a physical freak who dominated for over a decade. Martin ranks as the 3rd best offensive lineman in franchise history, and that is no small feat. He will one day have his name in the Cowboys' Ring of Honor, and a bust in Canton is waiting for him. But the question is, should he retire, or should the Cowboys bring him back for one more run? Over the past few seasons, Osa Odigizua has quietly become one of the Cowboys' most important defensive players. In 2024, he took his game to another level, leading all interior defenders in quarterback hits. That type of production from a defensive tackle is rare, and it is exactly what teams are willing to pay big money for in free agency. And that is the problem. Odigizua is set to hit the open market, and early projections indicate he could command a contract worth more than $20 million per season. That is a massive price tag, and while the Cowboys front office has said keeping him is a priority, it is fair to ask whether Dallas should actually commit that kind of money to him. For years, the Cowboys have taken a cautious approach to spending in free agency, often choosing to retain their own players rather than chasing outside talent. But is Odigizua truly the type of player worth breaking the bank for? That is where the debate begins. Former Super Bowl winning scout Brian Broaddus and Cowboys insider Jeff Kavanaugh recently discussed this very topic, and their take was eye-opening. While both acknowledged that Odigizua is a good player, they questioned whether he is a great player. If the Cowboys are going to spend over $20 million on a defensive tackle, shouldn't they make sure they are getting the absolute best option available? That led to an interesting suggestion. Instead of paying Odigizua, what if Dallas pursued Milton Williams? Williams, who has spent the past 4 seasons with the Philadelphia Eagles, is also set to become a free agent. This past season, he recorded 24 tackles and 5.0 sacks, proving to be a disruptive force on one of the best defensive lines in football. But his biggest moment came in the biggest game of the year, Super Bowl LIX. During the Eagles' dominant defensive performance against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, Williams recorded 2 sacks, playing a huge role in shutting down the Chiefs' offense. That kind of performance on the biggest stage raises the question, should the Cowboys go after a proven playoff performer instead of simply sticking with what they know? Now, let's be clear, Milton Williams is not necessarily looking to leave Philadelphia. Reports indicate that he is interested in returning to the Eagles. However, the Eagles have a crowded defensive line featuring young stars like Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. With those two already in place, Philadelphia may not be willing to hand Williams a massive contract, making him an intriguing free agent option. That opens the door for Dallas. If the Cowboys are truly willing to spend top dollar on an interior defensive lineman, would they be better off targeting an elite talent from another team rather than overpaying one of their own? That is the question. Broaddus and Kavanaugh opposed, and it is a valid one. This is one of the most important offseasons in recent Cowboys history. Micah Parsons has to adjust to his 3rd defensive coordinator in 4 seasons. His contract situation remains unresolved, and the Cowboys must decide whether to pay him or possibly explore a trade. Zach Martin's future is in doubt, and Dallas could be on the verge of losing one of its greatest offensive linemen ever. The decisions made over the next few months will determine whether this team takes the next step or starts to decline. Now, it is time to hear from you. What do you think about Parsons' situation? Should he get a record-breaking contract, or should Dallas consider other options? And what about Zach Martin? Should he retire, or should the Cowboys do everything in their power to bring him back? Let us know in the comments, and do not forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for all the latest Cowboys updates. Thanks for watching, and as always, go Cowboys!